I can already see the comments in the comment section about how I'm a communist and censorship is from the devil, and something about how free speech is life, but with an excessive number of eyes in it. I know those comments are coming. Those people probably didn't even watch the video. They're just reacting to the title and the thumbnail of this video. And that's okay. I used to be that very black and white, like censorship is wrong and free speech is clearly right, until I started reading a lot of books and articles and listening to videos from free speech like activists, like people who love free speech, and they're saying free speech is life, and they're saying, hey, this is the right way and we shouldn't have censorship. So here's what this video is. I'm going to build, I think, a case for censorship. And here's what I think. I think 95% of the people who are watching this video are gonna say, oh, I agree with everything. I think, like, with what you're saying, that there should be censorship, some base level of censorship, that most civilized societies, maybe all civilized societies, have some level of censorship in them already, and they're really required to make like our civilizations go. And then this conversation, I hope what it does, I hope is it sparks a conversation about where should that line be? Where is the censorship line? Where does it fall? And what is that? Yeah, when is too far? When does free speech take over? Let's get right into it. Let's start this thing off with a super simple definition. Here it is. Censorship is when one party controls information, generally news, books, movies, music, etc., from freely passing from one party to another. In this case, we're going to be looking at how a government keeps its citizens from having information. This generally happens in two places. It happens at publication, meaning you keep people from creating the information, or at distribution, meaning you keep them from getting the information out. This is very simple, and just because I'm a United States citizen, I'm probably going to reference the US government a lot, but more generally, this probably applies to pretty much any government. So what kinds of censorship could I possibly convince you are a good thing? Something that you want, something that you're going to be on board with. They roughly are going to run into two categories. The first category is misrepresentation in a formal way. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And the second one is safety. Now, I've heard this argument surrounding safety a little bit more than I've heard this first one. So we're going to start with this first one about misrepresentation. We'll get to some safety ones here in just a minute. Misrepresentation, though, just in general, it's lying about something, and like I said, in a formal way. These are formal documents or to attempt to make money. And so this is some examples of this are things like copyright law. Copyright law is put in place to keep me from being able to steal someone else's book, someone else's business patent, someone else's ideas, and market them off as my own ideas and make money off of them, right? So that's called copyright. In academia, we call that same idea plagiarism, which is something that we don't allow people to misrepresent information as their own information if it's actually someone else's. We also don't allow this for false advertisement. A company can't say, hey, if you take this pill, it only costs $500, it'll cure you of cancer and make you lose 30 pounds, if it doesn't do that. They have to say, you can't market this thing off as something that it just isn't. You also aren't allowed to, in a court of law, lie about something else, or what we say, commit false witness. It's an Old Testament commandment, right? And then forgery is the last one. We don't allow forgery of documentation like your identity. I can't say that my name is John Smith when actually my name is Matthew Schaefer. And we also can't do forgery of formal documents like U.S. tender. And these laws, all of these laws that are set up, these ones I've just named, these misrepresentation of formal documentation, this is put in place. It's a form of censorship. It keeps me from publishing or distributing information that would cause someone else harm. So if I'm making fake $100 bills, obviously if there were lots of fake $100 bills and that wasn't illegal in our society, the $100 bill would go away completely because you couldn't trust anyone's $100 bill. But also it would just create this chaos in our society, right? If we didn't have this misrepresentation of information censorship in place, then quite quickly our society would just evolve. And so this isn't what we think of as traditional censorship, but it clearly is censorship. It's saying, hey, Matthew can't go out and put whatever information he wants out there in the world without some kind of government oversight. And I think most people, when they think about this, when they really get down to it, they would say, you know what? I actually think I might agree. I actually think I might believe that we shouldn't be allowed to publish any information that we want to. There are, and again, with books, media of any kind, movie, music, we want those things to be protected. And then especially in places like identification, I don't want someone to steal my identity. I want it to be illegal for someone else to steal my identity. And I want there to be things in place that keep people from saying, hey, I'm Matthew Schaefer, here's my social, I'm going to take out a loan on your behalf. It's like, no, I don't want that. I want there to be protections in place. And so this is a first kind of basal level of censorship that I think most people would agree. I like it when the government keeps people from stealing my identity. I like it when the government protects my ideas and my copyright. This book I wrote, I don't want someone else to take it, right? And so I think this is one level that I would assume 95% of people out there would say, yes, I think that form of censorship is good. The second broad category for censorship that I think people will get on board with is safety. And there's a trigger warning. Here's your trigger warning right now. This particular section is going to involve the protection of minors in particular. That's your trigger warning, okay? Safety has a lot, there's a lot to this one, and I've seen a lot of arguments about this. Most people jump to this idea of like, hey, should terrorists be allowed to openly plan for terrorist actions on the internet? And probably you'll see people split on this as to whether or not they should or they shouldn't. I think an easy place that we can get on board with is child pornography, which is a place of censorship. It's a protection of minors. We don't think people very young should be involved with the making or the publication or distribution of pornography. And I think that's an easy one for most people to say, yeah, I'm on board with censorship if it's going to keep some of our most vulnerable people from having some of the most atrocious acts committed to them, right? In addition to that, there are these books that are created. They're called grooming manuals, where one adult has written a manual that teaches other adults how to take advantage of minors. These books are completely illegal. They're 100% censored by the government. And I think they should be. And again, I think most people out there in the world who are watching this video, I think 95% of us can get on board and say, I do think those manuals should be completely outlawed. They should be banned. You shouldn't be allowed to publish them. You shouldn't be allowed to distribute them. They shouldn't be on the internet. We shouldn't have these manuals going around, right? And so I think, at some base level, this safety category where we say we should use censorship as a base level to keep people from openly, outwardly able to publish and distribute materials that are designed specifically to hurt minors. If you can't get on board with that, then I've probably lost you and you should just go make your comment about how censorship is from the devil. But the next kind of step is, should it also be used to protect us in general? This question of censorship for, like I said, terrorist acts and things like that. The next place that I kind of feel like, and this is kind of under the safety category still, the next place I think I can kind of get you to maybe agree with this is this idea of internet censorship. Currently, the United States government censors thousands and thousands and thousands of websites a day. These are these fake websites. They're designed mostly to be scams and spam type websites. They're all designed to hurt the end user in some way. It's the classic look of like, instead of gmail.com, you accidentally type fmail.com because you typed it wrong, and fmail sends you to this fake website that's designed to steal your information or whatever. This is something the government blocks constantly. You can actually go look at Google and their transparency reports to see how many websites and emails that they block all the time, because the government actually requires them to do this. There are lots of ways that the government is censoring things right now, including blocking and filtering and throttling of different sites. I don't know. There's a place, I think, for some censorship in the internet. I personally am glad that I'm not constantly redirected to fake websites that look like real websites and they steal my information. Again, people who are careful, maybe they wouldn't fall for that, or maybe you would. It's tough to tell, but I personally am glad that even for my grandparents who are on the internet, I'm glad that they have sites that are blocked. It's harder for them to fall for a scam, and I'm glad that they're doing this. A couple more quick places that I know the government is involved in censorship, whether or not you agree with it or not, I just want to throw them out there. One is our whole movie and media and video game industry, music as well. They have these ratings on them, like rated R movies versus PG-13 or whatever. Again, I'm kind of glad that they're there. They're there because of censorship originally, though. There's oversight boards that are on these things, and they're not directly government censorship anymore, but that is where they started. So that's another place where I'm kind of glad that there's ratings on music or on video games or whatever. But all of this brings me to the big question, because not all censorship is good, right? Obviously, when you think about censorship, the knee-jerk reaction is 1984 and these types of Big Brother looks, which is not good. And it brings us to what I referenced already, which is like, oh, it's the communist thing. Am I pro China? Do I think that the government should be doing that, or should we be banning books? Is this a Fahrenheit 451 situation? Like all these books and dystopian futures that we think of. Where's the line, right? Where's the line? Even currently, like some stuff with cancel culture, which is kind of a conservative buzzword right now. Where's the line? And that's the question I want to ask you, my watcher. Thanks for watching through this whole video. But where do we draw the line between censorship and free speech? Because free speech really is an amendment right here in the United States that we think is really, really important. Our government was built on, first and foremost, this idea that, hey, we should have free speech. I don't know. I don't know where it goes. And I don't know who should be making those decisions. I don't know that it's clear. You could say something broad and generic like, well, if it directly affects the health and safety of some other person, then that's the place. But then who gets to decide whether or not who gets to decide that? Whether or not really affects the health and safety of the other person? Is hate speech okay? What about hate speech that, this kind of idea from a terrorist action of saying like, hey, I'm just speaking about how I'm planning on coming over there and cut, like, is that a threat? Where do you define a threat? What does that I don't know. It's not clear to me what the line should be and who gets to make that call. And I'd love some help thinking about it. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Thanks guys so much for watching this video. If you got something of value from it, feel free to like and subscribe. We put out content surrounding information, generally books, all the time. So thanks again for watching, and as always, stay safe out there.